Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Agnes Chan. I am the 48th Ward Director of Urban Planning and Infrastructure. Glad to be here, and I'm glad you all are here. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is our agenda. We've already gone over community agreements, and the Alderwoman just gave some welcoming remarks. I'll go through the project process briefly. We'll talk about the project context. Joe McCauley, the co-president of Emanuel Congregation, is here today. She will speak to the context of this project. And then we'll hear from Fern Hill Company and from Eckenhoff Saunders, the architects, about revisions to the plans. After that, we'll have a Q&A. We do expect folks we will give everyone opportunity, as many people as possible, in the time that we have, to raise their hands if you have a question. We'd like, please, to keep it to questions for raised hands. If you have comments, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we will also keep a record of the comments, and we will note questions that are asked today. Thank you. The Alderwoman already quickly reviewed our kind of community engagement process. This is the aldermanic side of this process. So just want to note, this is officially what we do in the 48th Ward for a zoning change request. This project is actually a special project because they're looking to do a planned development designation. And this is due to the scale of the project, the complexity of the project, and also because it is near the lakefront. So you can review our process here. I'll leave this slide up for a minute so you can take a look at where we are. We started in early January, and as the Alderwoman mentioned, we are on our third community meeting here in late June. We will, like we've done with the previous meetings, open our online public feedback form, which you will find on our website, and I will make sure that we have a QR code and the website link up on this presentation during this meeting, as well as this meeting presentation will be saved and sent out in our newsletter. So there'll be many different opportunities for you to provide your feedback and to access the links. The second part of this process, as I mentioned, it's a plan development process, a plan development project, excuse me. So we're going through the aldermanic portion of community engagement. If the Alderwoman is to give the green light to move forward with this process, then this project as a plan development will then go through a formal application filing with the city. And there are 3 different hearings that it will be where there's opportunities for public comment. They are the Plan Commission hearing, the Committee on Zoning hearing, and City Council. And City Council is the final decision for a plan development designation. Another thing to note is at Plan Commission hearing, there will be 2 votes, 2 types of review in one hearing, and they are for the plan development standards themselves, as well as lakefront protection review in this instance, because we are right near the lakefront and in the private zone of the lakefront protection ordinance. I'm now going to pass it off to Joe McCauley, the co-president for Emanuel Congregation, to give some project context. Thank you.
Hi and welcome. My name is Joe McCauley. I'm co-president of Emanuel Congregation. We are a synagogue with 250 households. We've called Edgewater our home for more than 70 years, and we hope to continue to be doing that for another 70 years. Our building is at 5959 North Sheridan. Our building at 5959 North Sheridan was built when we had 1,000 household members. We're facing the same headwinds everyone is facing in the religious world. We want to continue thriving as good neighbors here, but our building is expensive to maintain, and we only use half of our 34,000 square foot building. Things have changed dramatically with the way we use the building over the last 70 years. Over the years, going back to 2020, we've looked at multiple options for redeveloping the building. We came to this point after a thorough and formal process, and we chose Fern Hill developers to help us right-size our building, embrace the lake, and help secure our future. Our goal for this project is to also add much-needed inclusive housing opportunities in the community and Chicago as a whole. And with this plan, we can stay in the neighborhood where many of our neighbors live. Next up, Nick Anderson from Fern Hill is going to present an updated plan that takes into consideration the feedback that we have received from our members, neighbors, and city officials. Nick, over to you.
Nick, I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can go ahead and share yours.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Screen 3. Okay, did that work? Lucky enough. Okay, it
Yep.
did work. Great, wonderful. Okay. Hi everyone, Nick Anderson with Fern Hill. It's nice to be with everyone. Alderwoman and her whole office and staff, thank you so much for hosting this, and thank you to the Emanuel team as well. So I'm joined by my colleague Jake Waller from Eckenhoff Saunders, who's the project architect. And we're excited to go through the next iteration and progression of the plan that continues to incorporate feedback from congregation members, our neighbors, and the community at large. So with that, well, I think we'll just jump straight into it and then look forward to answering your questions as we go through the presentation. So just to take a step back and talk about where we started. This was the original first version of the concept that was studied, sort of what we're referring to now as the intake concept, or our version 1.0. This was the large horseshoe or courtyard structure with the synagogue on the southeast corner, predominantly tucked underneath the footprint of the residential floors above. The intent of this plan was to meet all the programming requirements of the synagogue in the project feasibility study, but also minimize building height for this study. A few months ago, we released version 2.0, and that was studying the benefits of breaking up the courtyard or horseshoe building into separate structures on the parcel east of Sheridan Road. And you all have seen that. With the structure broken up into different segments, we were able to play with the building height, increase setbacks, light and air, break the massing up, and center more of the massing to the western part of the site to open up the views from our neighbors to the north, wanting to be sensitive to their perspective in the project. So we gathered feedback on this plan over the last month or so, and that's led us to what we're going to present here today. So massing changes, the big move of version 3 is looking at a way or exploring how to eliminate the northmost building in this structure, and to study what changes to the massing would need to be made to shift that density to the remaining 2 buildings. This obviously has the benefit of increasing setbacks to our neighbor to our north. Certainly, both neighbors north and south of us can now look through the site. And this just shows a study of making the lakefront building slightly longer, and adding just a couple floors to the central building allows us to eliminate that third tower, which was part of version 2. So here's a comparison, version 2 to version 3, or 3 buildings versus 2 buildings. It does make the lakefront building longer. It does make the central building slightly taller, but we're balancing and trying to represent the impact of those trade-offs versus the elimination of an entire third building as part of the complex east of Sheridan Road. So that's the first move in terms of massing that you'll see throughout this presentation, and the major concept or intent of our massing strategy for version 3. The other big change on the ground floor, and this is really driven, I would say the concept massing changes were driven more by external comments from our surrounding neighbors in the community. The ground floor changes were more driven by comments we've received internally from congregation members. What you can see on the left-hand side is version 2 and our ground floor plan. And the main public concept to increase connectivity to the lakefront and accessibility to the lakefront was a pedestrian muse that ran east-west through the site. And that was what was previously presented. That muse ran just north of the synagogue's portion of the site. And on the north part of that pedestrian muse were the 2 residential lobbies for those 2 buildings. Based on feedback from membership and concerns about focusing on safety and security, balancing wanting to have the site be open and inclusive to the neighborhood, but also finding the right balance to ensuring that security. Version 3 is on the right-hand side, and there's a little tweak to this concept. The pedestrian muse is maintained, but we've moved it further north. So instead of separating the residential and the synagogue use, it's the separation break from the residential use and the parking to the north. And so that provides a much more safe experience for the synagogue. And shifting it north puts it on or above the residential lobbies. So if you compare the left versus the right, you can see that it's effectively a flip of that pedestrian muse and residential lobby location, and a shift up. So those are the 2 main big changes. And this, again, showing the progression of version 1, where we started, taking some of the feedback to version 2, and then version 3, which is the massing changes and the shifting of the pedestrian muse to the site. So with that, I will hand it off for a little bit to Jake Waller at Econoff Saunders, and he'll go through the project design of version 3.0 in a little bit greater detail. Jake?
Yeah, thanks, Nick, and thanks for everyone on the call. So just a few updated massings here of this version 3.0. That north building closest to Malibu is obviously gone. We'd like to activate that with amenity space for the buildings and for the community. We think this pulls down that shadow impact to the north quite a bit, maintains the private beach there in the northeast corner, while keeping the unit count the same, but also adding quite a bit of parking. Next. A lower view, like I think many of you saw in version 2.0, this muse or pedestrian throughway comes out at the lake, almost in the center of this remassed lakefront building. If you notice as well, the synagogue space in dark blue has also been slightly reshaped. It's a little longer, allowing for the resi building or residential building to extend a little further to the south, but largely the same from this angle. Like Nick mentioned, we are slightly higher because we've kind of absorbed the massing and units from what was the north building. Another southeast view looking down into the courtyard development. Again, north massing is gone. The synagogue is slightly reshaped. So more of that synagogue is out from under the tower that is along the lakefront. The motor court has been shortened largely because of the added parking to the north there. The one upside of that added parking, though, is that we do get to add more outdoor amenity space. You can see slightly there in the middle between the two towers. I think Nick mentioned it just now. I mean, the sight line through this development is significantly improved with the absence of that northernmost massing. One thing you're still going to see here on the south west corner at grade is this, what we call like a soft corner or outdoor but covered corner under the tower. Still a small retail premises there in orange, but that also came a little more southward as we kind of absorbed back of house spaces and mechanical spaces from that tower that was at the north of the site. Yeah, this is identifying what I was just mentioning, greater independence or sort of airspace freedom for the synagogue. Almost the entire massing is pulled out from underneath the tower building, just allowing easier free spans, open spaces for the worship space, social halls, etc. We think this is a significantly improved shaping for the congregation. Yeah, here's a good comparison of that version 2.0 that I think most people saw previously. This reshaping is a little bigger, but it adds some features that I think are really desirable for this type of space, particularly on level 2, where we anticipate there being sanctuary space, much easier to free span without columns, that entire sanctuary, without the load of the residential tower above coming down. We also think there's room now for a covered porte-cochere, drop-off, protected drop-off for the congregation right at the entry or front door of their property. This is outdoor space on the right, identified in yellow, that is covered or protected. So the pedestrian throughway or muse is largely in the middle of the site. It moved northward because it was so far south on the version 2.0. We think this keeps it out of the major traffic flow that will be, drop off of both pedestrians, visitors, guests, but also truck traffic. So the only sort of motor crossing here will be at the parking garage entry that is all the way at the north in the gray. On the west side of Sheridan, I think this is very consistent with the previous version 2.0, pushing that building back to the frontage of Colvin House, 40-something feet, 42 feet, and then a cafe, a one-story cafe building set back about 15 feet. This is how we've expanded a lot of that parking. It's deepening the north mass that is in gray there that used to be under a tower, almost doubling that width, but then also absorbing parking into the tower along Sheridan. So we're picking up a lot of parking count efficiency by doing this. We've also lined the lakefront portion of this with that wellness amenity program in pink. We think this would be a really great spot for an indoor pool. And then you can see here on levels 2 and 3, the synagogue has direct connections, or will have direct connections to their reserved parking stalls. Yeah, a lot of benefit to pulling the tower off of that north massing. It freed up a lot of airspace overhead. We think there's an opportunity to do a full-size basketball court, tennis courts, paddle, etc. Really kind of in a private courtyard that's sort of bookended by corridors on either side. But we kind of imagine this as an amenity for the community and the neighborhood, not just residents of the building. It is, I think, almost 30,000 square feet of space. So there's going to be a lot of programming here, a lot of usefulness to more than just the development. Yeah, and this is just another diagram illustrating what we were mentioning before about opening this sight line to the south, particularly for units lower in Malibu through the site. And again, this was only made possible by redistributing that tower into these other two kind of slabs of residential shaping here. Opening that completely, I think, is an added benefit. Just some more primitive views here, kind of wireframe, looking through the development. Again, 4 stories at the parking massing, very consistent with the existing Malibu parking entry and motor court to the north. Next.
I can take this back, Jake.
Yeah, back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Jake. And then we did want to touch on starting to look at, with this version 3.0, how the unit count could be dispersed across 3 buildings. Again, 1 building on the west side of Sheridan and the 2 buildings on the east side of Sheridan. So the 603 is the maximum unit count that would be allowed under the B5 zoning, which is what we're proposing. At an average unit size of 700 square feet, that, and keeping that consistent across all 3 of the buildings, that would put 70 units total on the west side. It would put 410 units in the central building, and 123 units on the lakefront. If this project remains all rental housing, 20% of that unit count would be affordable under the city's ARO ordinance. So 14 units on the west side, 82 units in the central building, and 25 affordable units on the lakefront. I know there is, and there's been expressed a lot of apprehension to the unit count, and I know 603 units is a big number on a relative basis. I did want to add a little context so that both Emanuel members, but also the community at large, keep in perspective of how large of a land area we're talking about here. And so you can see in the graphic on the left-hand side, the assembly of the 3 properties that we have is just about 2.5 acres of land. And so The 603 units represent 5.5 units for every 1,000 square feet of land on the site. And just to put that in an apples to apples comparison, we have two large buildings to our north, both condominiums. One is 356 units, the other is 498 units. Those are on slightly smaller parcels of land, and so their units as a percentage of their land area is actually more dense than what we're proposing here. So, not necessarily making the comment that it's right or wrong, but just wanted to give that perspective of just showing the math. So we know 603 units has been an apprehension of some in the community. But just to, again, keep in perspective that we're talking about a 2.5 acre land site here. And again, you've seen this before, but this is just a summary picture of version 3.0. As you can see, it's a more of a tweaking, I think, from version 2 to version 3 versus the huge leap that we took from version 1 to 2. So we're really excited to present these improvements. We think they've made the project better in terms of surrounding neighbor view corridors, increasing the independence and footprint of the synagogue, and finding that right balance between making the lakefront open and accessible to the public, but also keeping the synagogue's safety and security in mind, as well as finding a way to increase the parking on the site and create additional amenities for the community in the form of this community membership club. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you have and look forward to the conversation.